4 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting of council for Monday, May the 10th, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There are basically 3 items of business on the agenda, which we'll get to shortly. But the third item is a closed session of council to deal with labor relations or employee negotiations. And I see that our legal counsel, Mr. Steve Williams, is with us. Good afternoon, Steve. Pleasure to have you with us. And if you'll bear with us, we'll go through the business items on the agenda first. So call the meeting to order, and chair's looking for a removal, the second item of business is approval of the agenda, and Deputy Mayor Deschamps, I think you have the motion.
I do. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter. The Municipal Council approves the agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And the next item of business is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures here this afternoon?
I'll make one because we're not being awarded the contract, but it was tendered to gravel out of our pit for the hot mix award, so I'm filing one.
So Councillor Hunter declares a pecuniary interest with item number 4A, and will file the necessary paperwork. Minutes will so reflect. Are there any other declarations of pecuniary interest?
None by me.
None. All right, moving to item number 4 on the agenda, and number 4 in the agenda is action and information items coming forward from committees. And the first one is to award the hot mix resurfacing tender. And there's a action item in the agenda package. The purpose of it is to award the contract to the successful bidder of the hot mix resurfacing tender. And there is a recommendation coming forward here on page 2 of 6. And I guess the one thing that I want to bring to council's attention, and I asked the CAO to put it on your desk. There was a memo circulated by the CAO on April 16th, and I think everybody has it on their desk. And I'll draw your attention to the first item on that memo, which is the hot mix tender item. And the tender is issued. The briefing note of April 16th indicates the tender is issued and closes on April 29th. The scope of the work does not include budgeted work on Edison Avenue. And after consulting with the engineer about the major work planned at Greenfield Ethanol, a decision was made to hold back this work for now. So my point was that the Edison Avenue was included in our capital budget. And this is the reason that it was not included in the hot mix tender. And now the change to the budget, which is a council decision, will come in the 4th clause of the recommendation. And you can see the recommendation in front of us. And I'm not going to read it all, but the 4th clause is that we direct the treasurer to transfer 103,572. Now that was from the budget to reserves to resurface Edison Drive in 2022. So with those few words of introduction, I'm looking for a discussion on the briefing note and the recommendation that we have in front of us. And the chair is looking for a mover to move the recommendation.
I have the, I will be moving, Mr. Mayor, but by your authorization just now, do you want to have debate before I move it, or will I move it and get it on the table?
No, please bring it forward and put it on the table.
Thank you. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dillabois that Municipal Council, 1, award the hot mix award the hot mix resurfacing tender ECPW 21-04 to Coco Paving Limited Construction at a cost of $431,730.51, including HST, and 2, authorize the Director of Operations to execute contract documents, and 3, approve $58,556.24 plus HST for engineering / CA and contingency to be used at the Director of Operations direct discretion should any foreseen issues arise from this project. And number 4, direct the treasurer to transfer $103,572.00 to reserves to resurface Edison Drive in 2022.
Okay, so the motion is on the table. Discussion, if any. If there's no discussion, I'm going to call a question on this motion. Go ahead.
I'm just a little curious, and Mr. Mayor, I believe this should go to through you to the CAO. What was the real purpose, or the purpose that the engineers decided to hold back, or gave staff the inclination it should be held back? Was it strictly traffic, or was there something else?
So through the mayor, yes, the anticipated construction traffic and the heavier loads on a freshly resurfaced road would probably end up ruining that freshly paved road. So certainly the thought process was delay a year until that expansion is complete, and then go back and resurface that road.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I have one. Mr. Mayor, there's estimated total cost of the project is under budget by $50,546.47. Is there any way that we could take that and move it to some of our gravel roads in need of real bad repairs, like on Groveton when it was shut down, and to make a good base on that, for an example? Could we take that and transfer it to gravel roads for improvement? Is that possible?
Well, again, I think the next item on the agenda, which is item number 4B, indicates how the staff is recommending that $50,000 be reallocated, if I can put it that way. Would you give me that number again? It was 50,000.
$50,546.47.
Okay, so that's the number that you'll see in the second item here for the replacement of the 1989 grader. So I think we'll have the discussion that you're talking about when it comes to that second item, but you are correct to note that there is a savings of that amount on these roads that are now been included on the tender. Now, maybe just to refresh our memories, and I see that we just now tonight have in front of us a copy of the final approved budget. And if I just look quickly at that budget, we should be able to see what we had originally included in the capital budget. I'm going to see if I can find it here quickly, which roads were included.
It's almost at the very back, Mr. Mayor.
Say again?
It's almost at the very back.
Yeah, well, here it is here. Blair Road South, resurfacing. Ventnor Road East, Stafford Road, resurfacing. Well, those were 2020s. And then then there's Latimer Road in here, there, and Ann Road. I think Ann Street is one. Edison Avenue was the next at 103,000, and Commerce Drive at 191. And have we got them all? What is included in this hot mix surface
Judy
tender?
Place.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's Judy Place from Hudson Crescent to the end, First Street from Shanley Road to Walker Street, Ann Street, Shanley Road to the end, Rooney Road, County Road 44 to 350 meters south, Commerce Drive, County Road 2 to 577 meters north are the roads that are included in the scope of this
Right.
mix tender.
So those are what's included in the motion that's in front of us here right now. Total cost of $431,730. So is there any further discussion on this motion that's in front of us?
Just a
We'll deal with
question.
we'll deal with the savings, when we get to there. Go ahead.
Okay,
Awesome.
the length, the total length of the project is 1.27 kilometers. And the total project costs are almost $500,000. Does that include setting aside the money for Edison Avenue?
No, it doesn't. Edison Avenue was a separate budget item,
Okay,
and it's not included in this, it was not tendered, and it's not included in this tender document that we're dealing with tonight.
okay, thank you. $500,000 seems rather high for 1.27 kilometers.
Yeah, but it is hot mix,
Yes.
and it is, I think it's a removal of base and then the two lifts, is it not?
In a number of the cases, yes, it's two lifts. And there's some culvert replacements and some slate drainage improvements, for instance, on the end street.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna call the question on this motion, and those in favor,
Aye.
and opposed, if any? Councilor Hunter, you
I
didn't?
declare a conflict.
Oh, right, sorry, my apologies. Yeah. So I guess the only thing that I would say is that it is, the $103,000 in removal of Edison is a budget change. So we've now authorized that change, but I'd like to see those things come forward separately. All right, and so now we're at, oh, wait a minute, now that was, yes. My paperwork here. So the next item on the agenda is item number 4B, which is this question of a grader purchase, grader replacement. And so there is a long briefing note here. And with the briefing note is the recommendation. And you've all had an opportunity to read both the briefing note and the recommendation. And I'll just draw to your attention where the, looking at where the $50,000 is. And I believe we find that on option 2. On page 4 of 6, staff has received a 3-year financing interest rate of 1.69% through RBC based on 0 down payment. The monthly payment would be $8,557. This would work out to $68,461. The majority, if not all, of this payment, that would be the first year payment, can become covered through the savings received in the hot mix tender pricing. The total payment over the term is, I thought the 50,000 was outlined there, but it's not. So maybe I just go to the CAO. You and I had talked about this, but it's not in the briefing note. How were you intending to cover the first year payment then?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, cover through that 50,000 plus what we're hoping is that we're not going to have to utilize the contingency. Certainly all of that contingency with the hot mix, and that should cover all those payments for 2021.
Okay, so that sort of fluffs up, or not fluffs up, but that sort of clarifies option 2 and how the staff is proposing to finance option 2, which is a sort of a 36-month financing purchase arrangement for this 19, it's a 2020 grader, if I recall correctly. Purchase of a 2020 856C all-wheel drive case motor grader. So Councillor Dilba, I don't know whether that answers your question or not, but you can see where the 50,000 went. So now chair is open for discussion on this briefing note and the recommendations in front of you. Chair is looking for a motion to bring the recommendation or to action the recommendation.
I have the motion here.
Okay, do you want to put it on the floor then?
Okay, moved myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps. That Municipal Council 1 amends the 2021 budget and authorizes staff to proceed with the purchase of the 2020 856CA all-wheel drive case motor grader from J.R. Brisson Equipment for a total cost of $300,192, including non-rebated HST, and to fund this purchase through Royal Bank of Canada through 36-month financing, with the 2021 payments being covered by the savings realized in the hot mix tender pricing, and 3, direct staff to return with a report by the September council meeting outlining options on reducing the grader fleet to a single unit.
Okay, so that's the motion on the floor. Discussion if any. Councillor?
Yes, through you to the CAO, or the Director of Operations. I was hoping to see a third option. The third option would be something like getting rid of both of our graders and getting one suitable one. By reading the briefing note, I'm under the opinion that this grader is already sitting there ready to go. So it's not a matter where we would be without a grader for any period of time. I was kind of hoping that option would be there, and
Trade 2 for 1.
get rid of our older units and get one good one that will do the job. And being a 2020, there's a lot of life left in it, or a lot of life in it, let's put it that way. So I guess the question is, did staff ever consider that option at all?
So through the mayor, that's part of the recommendation of coming back to the September council meeting with options to look at reducing the fleet to one single unit. I think that 60 kilometers of road for one grader is stretching thin. So there's some other items that we need to look at before, from a staff level, that there'd be comfort on going down from 2 to 1 right off the bat.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
direct answer though to Councillor
Well,
Cameron's
it's-
question is there was no option to look at trading 2 for 1.
There is not, even though I see it's covered by a report going to be issued in September. We're going to lose 6 months of trade-in value right there. So it's, we're almost adding another year to it. Mr. Mayor, to be quite truthful, I would like to see some more digging into a price on this grader, which would also include getting rid of the 2 and getting 1. I'd like to see some figures on that, to be quite truthful.
Any other discussion on this motion? Councillor Hunter?
Well, it's kind of silly in a business sense to decide that you're just automatically going to go to one grader before you try it. We can try one grader if we buy this new grader. You can try one grader till September. You can park the other grader, let it sit, don't use it, and see whether there's any time in that 6 months period that you had to have a second grader. You didn't have to have it, that gives you a good option that you can get rid of it. As far as trade-in value, you're not going to get nothing for trading these 2 champion graders in to a dealer. The money you're gonna get out of these champion graders is going to do an industrial auction and put them in, and you're gonna get smaller contractors that are gonna step in and maybe buy these. Champion graders aren't worth much money now because you can't get parts for them. Most of the parts you get now are aftermarket parts. You get Champions not built anymore. So they're hard to maintain. So the only people that are gonna buy them is small dealers, like small operators, maybe like Kenny Beck would maybe give you $20,000 for the oldest one there, and with being a mechanic, fix it up and keep it going, do the odd little parking lot and stuff that he just has to do it. Everyone's still in pretty good shape. You might get somebody like Coker or somebody might buy that does winter works contracts for parking lots that would buy it and just park it for a parking lot. Tackleberry had 3 old Wabcos sat in Brockville for years every winter that did push the odd bank back when they need it and stuff on a lease agreement. But trade them in, a dealer's not going to give you nothing for them because he doesn't want to bother trying to handle them like that. All he's going to do is send them to the auction, and if he figures he's going to get 15 for the one and 30 for the other, he's going to give you 5 and 10 for it.
Yeah, I understand, excuse me, I understand what you're saying, Counselor, but I guess my wording was, I was just assuming that they were going to take them to a dealer. I would certainly hope that they would look into the best option available to get the most money out of them. And the parts are all there for champion graders.
They're hard to get.
Well, no, they're not. No, they're not. They're all there. You can get them from any jobbing outlet in Ontario. Champion don't make their own parts. They're all made by the aftermarket.
Okay, and I guess
They're out there.
I get the one point that I'm going to interject here too is that at the previous meeting, council did indicate a willingness to support extra hours on a single grader. We made that first of all by inviting the staff to go out to see if they could buy 300 rental hours, and we determined through that process that they couldn't buy 300 rental hours all in one chunk between now and the end of the year. But that's not the same as trying to buy, 10 or 20 or 30 hours here and there during the most needed times. So I guess the only point that I want to make is that we're not exactly reducing it in one lump sum, in one movement to a single grader. What we are saying is that we'd just like to have one on the fleet, but we will support extra hours for a second grader on a rental basis if, as and when required. But I'm just bringing that into the discussion. I don't want to curtail the debate on the motion that's in front of us. Are there any speakers on the motion in front of us? Deputy Mayor.
Just a couple of points. I mean, with a new grader, there's definitely going to be a learning curve for drivers. I'm sure learning new grader is a good thing. So having 2 while they train on a new one, to me, doesn't sound like a bad idea. Keeping both going for a short time. But looking forward to reducing the fleet to 1, once we have 1 good, new, reliable grader, I think it puts the township, if it still wants to consider contracting out part of the hours, I think it gives us a good position in that we're not already in the season looking for somebody to cover us. We can put out a tender that, maybe gives more than 1 year, maybe it gives 2 years, maybe it gives 3 years or 4 years for that secondary use, allowing us to get rid of the second grader and making it more attractive to a private grader when you can guarantee them, 100 hours or 200 hours for the next 3 or 4 years.
Okay, any additional speakers?
I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Is there a problem with our 1997 grader now? I know our 89 is pretty much shot, but is our 1997 working okay as we speak?
I haven't heard any complaints, but to the CAO.
Through the mayor, the 1997 is operational.
So it's operational, and we did have a report not long ago on what its maintenance costs to date have been. I don't know the numbers.
And to follow up with that, Mr. Mayor, have we went outside to ask our neighbors if we were in a jam that 97 broke down, we would have one that we could borrow from maybe North Grenville or Elizabethtown, or have we looked into that so we don't? My biggest problem is it wasn't budgeted for 2021. We're coming back here. We beat this 3 times. Keep bringing this back, greater thing. So did we look into outside help on that matter?
Through the chair of the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, we're beginning to run out of all kinds of options of trying to Band-Aid a solution for the inevitable that the township needs a newer, more reliable grader on the fleet. Unfortunately, we're at that spot in 2021 versus it coming forward in 2022. But the reality is that this is the circumstance we're in. In most other municipalities, the bulk of their graders are going to be needed at the same time that ours are. So if we're looking at utilizing their graders full-time in a window, it's going to be difficult. It's going to impact their municipality as well. So.
Councillor Hunter.
One thing we haven't looked at here, but there's no question we need a grader. Whether it's budgeted for or not, we need a grader. Same as we had to buy trucks that were budgeted for. This is a remarkable deal in this grader, I can tell you. I've talked to a few of my associates in the business, and 2 of them wanted to know where the grader was. I wouldn't tell them where it was, because if I told them, it wouldn't be here now. It would have been bought, because they were looking for a grader too. But one way we can look at the hours on this, we haven't did over the years, and it's always been a question of mine over the years. We always prepare our gravel roads for putting the gravel, spreading the gravel. Most contractors that bid to put our gravel down, we could tender that they prepare the road for the gravel with their grader. That takes a lot of hours every spring on grading for these roads. And I think if we did it that way, we could cut our hours down. We could let you get away with one good grader all the time. Plus the fact we might get a saving, because if it means selling 8,000 ton of gravel, but you got to supply a grader and grade it and level it for you, you're going to get a better deal on that grader, because their crew's there. But right now, I got a grader sitting in the pit right now, because they've got jobs coming up that it's there, because it's going to be going out grading, prepping the roads and prepping the thing, because they're drawing. They're getting a good deal on that grader. I'm sure they're getting a good deal on it, because they're selling the gravel.
Yeah, I think.
So I think that's something we've never really looked at in this township of including that in our tender, that whatever roads we're gonna put the gravel on, that they supply the grader and prep the road and level it.
And then do we do the top dressing with our grader?
Yeah, then there's no confusion, and
yeah,
I am not going to pick on management the way it's been done, but over the last few years, there's been days that we've had trucks sitting on the pit waiting, deciding where they were supposed to go, because they hadn't been told the night before where they were supposed to go at 7 o'clock the next morning, what roads they're graveling. Where if we tendered out that and named the roads that this gravel's going on, it's out of our hands then. Therefore, foreman's going to be going, and they're going to know, and we're going to get the roads done quicker.
Yeah.
Because now our guys don't start until 7. They quit at 5, even in a long time. all the contractors go 6 to 6.
Right,
Like instead, like, you're gonna get a better price probably on it too, because then their guys can work their 12 hours instead of being there
oh.
for 8
yeah,
hours.
mhm.
And 4 belly dumps sitting in the pit because
Yeah.
the guys went home, they can't spread anymore, they gotta quit at 5 o'clock.
There we go.
Basically,
Okay.
they quit at 4 o'clock because our guys are grappling the road,
Yep,
so they gotta grade it for the night.
Yep.
So then they're done drawing at about 4 or 4:30 at the latest, because they gotta get the road graded up, they can't leave it with just
Yeah.
spread gravel.
okay, so the discussion is going way beyond the intent of the motion here, which is to purchase this grader by the lease method that's been outlined. And, but we've had a good discussion, so I think I'm gonna call the discussion, to an end. And I think we all realize that we do need a reliable motor grader, and this is one mechanism to get at it. And I do commend the staff for the leasing mechanism, although I too would have preferred to see whether or not we would have got a better price for those 2 old fellows against this one new one. But anyway, let's let that go. There are 3 components to this motion. One is that it amends the 21 budget to authorize the staff to proceed with the grader, and it names the cost. Number 2, it tells how we're gonna fund the purchase through the Royal Bank with a 36-month financing, and how the 2021 payments are gonna be, where they're gonna come from. And then 3rd component is it directs staff to return with a report to the September council meeting, how we're gonna operate next year with one grader. And Councillor Hunter has just put forward one good suggestion. So with that short summary and the brief discussion that we've had, I'm gonna call the question on the motion. Those in favor of the motion?
Should I record a vote, please?
Okay, recorded vote requested by Councillor Dillabaugh. So I'll call the motion. Councillor Cameron, how do you vote?
It would be nay.
Councillor Dillabaugh, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councillor Hunter, how do you vote?
Yeah,
Deputy Mayor, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that puts me in the awkward position here. So I'm going to indicate how I'm gonna vote and the rationale for it. I'm interested in getting to one grader. And I had asked the staff to please go and see whether or not they could get a better price by putting 2 up, or trading 2 for 1. I would hope to save a few dollars for the taxpayer. I had asked for that to happen. Didn't happen. But I've got to deal with what I've got in front of me here now. I know we need a grader. I'm not oblivious to that fact. The 97 we've heard from the CAO is operational right now and probably could continue to be so for another period of time until we went back and did something about this. However, I'm heavily influenced by Councillor Hunter's comment that this is probably a very good deal, and if we don't take it now, we could lose it. So that influences me. So I'm caught between trying to get to one grader and postponing that until September and letting this motion go through right now. So what am I going to do? I'm going to vote in favor of this motion and let this go through at this point in time. I'm very disappointed that we did not deal with this in a different way. But I have to deal with what's in front of me, and so I'm going to vote in favor of the motion. I'm going to declare the motion carried. And the onus is going to be on staff to show me how we're going to deal with one grader, and I'm looking forward to the September report. So there's where we are. And now I'm on to the next item on the agenda, which is the mayor's report. I have no council inquiries or notices of motion. If there are any, please. Hearing none. Now the mayor's report, there will be none, and the question period, there will be none. And so now we're at the closed session. And Councillor Hunter, I believe you have the motion for the closed session.
Time on here. 4:35. Myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, municipal council proceed into closed session at 4:35 in order to address a matter pertaining to section 239(2)D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically union negotiations.
Okay, so we're going into closed session at 4:35. That ends the closed session, and I need the motion to come out of the closed session, to come out of the
Myself,
closed
second by
session.
Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that the closed meeting of municipal council does now adjourn and the open meeting does now resume 5:15 p.m.
Okay, motion is on the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And so now I'll just do the report out from the closed session and say that council met in closed session to meet with legal counsel, Mr. Williams, on a matter related to labor relations and employee negotiations, specifically union negotiations for a new contract. And received an update on the current state of the situation. And so that's the report out from the closed session. And Councillor Dillabaugh, I believe you have the confirmatory bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and second by Council Cameron that the bylaw adopt, confirm, ratify matters dealt with by the resolution be now passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2021-25.
Sorry, got it. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion is carried. And then the motion to adjourn, Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter that municipal council does now adjourn at 5:17 p.m.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried.